Neither to the victim, neither to the person who has done it. It's an irreparable loss. Imagine if in the state of intoxication, the person has committed rape or committed incest, the person cannot forgive himself. That's the reason our beloved Prophet Muhammad said. It's mentioned in the Sahih Hadith of Sunan ibn Majah, volume number 3, in the book of intoxication, chapter number 30, hadith number 3872. The beloved Prophet said that alcohol is the mother of all evils. It is the most shameless evil. Our beloved Prophet said, it's mentioned in Sunan ibn Majah, volume number 3, in the book of intoxication, chapter number 30, hadith number 3391. Our beloved Prophet ﷺ said that anything which intoxicates you in large quantity is even prohibited in small quantity. No excuse for a nip or a tot. Our beloved Prophet ﷺ also said, it's mentioned in Sunan ibn Majah, volume number 3, in the book of intoxication, chapter number 30, hadith number 3380. Our beloved Prophet said that all 10 categories of people who deal with alcohol are cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person who distills alcohol, the person who has it distilled by someone, the person who distills for someone, the person who drinks it, the person who transports it, the person for whom it is transported, the person who serves it, the person who sells it, the person who utilizes the money of the sale of alcohol, the person who buys it, the person who buys it for someone else. All these 10 categories of people who deal with alcohol, our beloved Prophet said, the curse of Allah is on them. But today, my colleagues, that is the medical doctors, they have a different approach. What they say, that alcohol, it is not addiction. They say that alcoholism is a disease. And they say that we have to be sympathetic towards the alcoholic. The new technology, new ways. No, we have to, as the sick person, like how someone is sick, you have to visit him and you have to solace, show kindness to him. So today's medical doctors, they say that alcoholism is a disease, as though you have to be, you have to pray for them, poor man is sick. You have to be sympathetic towards him. And I reply to them. And in one of my messages that comes on the Peace TV, and I always repeat it, that if alcoholism is a disease, it is the only disease that is sold in bottles. It is the only disease that is advertised in the newspapers, in the magazines, on the radio broadcast stations, on the television channels. It is the only disease that has a licensed outlet for sale. It is the only disease that gets a revenue for many governments of the world. It is the only disease that brings violent deaths on the highways. It is the only disease that destroys families. It is the only disease that has got no viral or germ as its cause. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, says and gives the reply in Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 90. Rijtum min amri shaitan, it is a Satan's handiwork. Fashtanibu lalakum tuflihun. Abstain from this handiwork that you may prosper. It is not a disease, it is a Satan's handiwork. Abstain from it that you may prosper. That's the reason. In most of the religious scriptures, besides the Quran and the Hadith, alcohol has been prohibited. The 15th most common question asked by the non-Muslims is, in Islam, why are 2 women witnesses equal to 1 man's witness? Indicating that Islam degrades the woman. Let me tell you that the Quran, in no less than 5 places, talks about witnesses without mentioning the gender, whether male or female. Except in one place. The Quran specifies and says that 2 women witness is equal to 1 witness of man, and that is in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 282, which is the longest ayah, longest verse of the Quran. It is the part of the longest surah of the Quran, Surah Baqarah, and the verse number 282 is the longest verse of the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that, Ya allazina amanu, oh you believe, when you involve in any financial transaction involving future obligation for a fixed period of time, put it down in writing and get 2 men as witness amongst yourselves. It further goes and says, if you can't find 2 men, then 1 man and 2 women. And it continues, if one of them errs or makes a mistake, the second will remind her. Now this verse of the Quran is exclusively talking about financial transactions and nothing else. Let me give you an example for better understanding. For example, if someone wants to undergo a surgery, maybe a major operation, the best for him would be that he takes the advice of 2 qualified surgeons. It is the best, for safety. If he can't find 2 qualified surgeons, at least 1 qualified surgeon, MS or MCH, and 2 MBBS doctor. Because an MBBS doctor cannot do a major surgery. You can't have 4 MBBS doctors and do the surgery. Best would be 2 qualified surgeons who are master of surgery. If you can't find 2 qualified surgeons, master of surgery, at least 1 master of surgery and 2 bachelor of surgery. Similarly, in financial transaction, because in Islam, the financial burden is put on the shoulders of the man in Islam. The woman need not look after any financial burden. In Islam, before a woman is married, it is the duty of the father and the brother. And after she's married, it is the duty of the husband and the son to look after lodging, boarding, clothing, and all financial aspects. So because of this, if it's an Islamic society, a man is more financially aware as compared to a woman. Because of this, in financial transaction, when you take witnesses, take 2 men. If you can't find 2 men, then 1 man and 2 women. Because if one of them errs, the Arabic word is tazil, makes a mistake. Some people translate as if one of them forget. It's not forget. It is if one of the women makes a mistake, the second will correct her. There are several verses in the Quran which talk about witnesses without mentioning the gender. For example, Quran says in Surah Ma'idah chapter number 5, verse number 106 to 108, that if death approaches you, put the will, the inheritance in writing and take 2 witnesses. The gender is not mentioned. Quran says in Surah Talaq chapter number 65, verse number 2, that when someone gives talaq, take 2 witnesses. The gender is not specified. Should be honest, should be just. Gender is not specified. Quran says in Surah Nur chapter number 24, verse number 4, that if someone lays an allegation against the modesty of a woman, produce 4 witnesses, otherwise 80 lashes. 4 witnesses doesn't specify the gender, whether it's male or female. If you cannot get 4 witnesses, and if you make an allegation against the modesty of a woman, 80 lashes. And one verse of the Quran is explicitly clear, which equates 1 male and 1 female. In Surah Nur chapter number 24, verse number 6 says that if someone lays an allegation against the spouse, or the husband lays an allegation against the wife, and he does not have any evidences, no witnesses, his solitary evidence is sufficient, and he has to take oath 4 times in the name of Allah, and 5th time pronounce a curse on him if he's lying. Immediately the next verse, after verse number 6 and 7 of Surah Nur chapter 24, verse number 8 says, but if the wife, if she also does not have any witnesses, she too can be a solitary evidence by taking oath 4 times. And the fifth one, being a curse on herself if she's dying. So here, it is clearly mentioned in the Quran that one female is equal to one male. So based on this, most of the fuqahas and the jurists, they agree that only in cases of financial transaction, two women is equal to one man. And some jurists say that in cases of murder, where the nature of the female may be difficult for her to give evidence, maybe two women is equal to one. But all the other cases, one woman is equal to one man witness. For example, in the starting of the month of Ramadan, in the sighting of moon, you require one witness. In the ending of Ramadan, you require two witnesses. It does not make a difference whether it's a male or a female. Only in some country, it has to be a man, should have a beard of the standard fist, one fist, and then only can you take the witness. And I have one more strong argument that the beloved wife of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, radhiyallahu anha, she has narrated no less than 2,210 ahadith. And she was the only witness. So 2,210 Sahih hadith, which are basis of the Sharia, is a witness only of one woman. She was the wife of the Prophet. Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. So this clearly indicates that one witness of woman is equal to one witness of man. There are cases in which, how in financial transaction men is preferred to women, there are certain cases in which woman witness is taken, men's witness is not taken. For example, while giving the burial bath of a female Muslimah, witness should be a woman. A man cannot be a witness. Unless in certain conditions where it's a forest and there are no human beings, then the husband can be. But otherwise, generally, for the burial bath, for the janaza ghusl, the witness is accepted of a woman, not of a man. The 16th most common question asked about Islam is that why does Islam do injustice to women by only allowing 50% of the share given to the male counterpart? That why do women in Islam inherit only half what is inherited by the male counterpart? It's injustice to them. This is the 16th most common misconception. As far as inheritance is concerned, the Quran speaks about inheritance in several places. In Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 180, Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 240, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 7 to 9, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 19, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 33, Surah Ma'idah chapter number 5 verse number 106 to 108. Several places it speaks about inheritance, but the exact share, the shares is mentioned in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 11 and 12 and Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 176. Allah says in the Quran in Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 11 that as for the inheritance of your children, the male will get double the share of the female. If only daughters, 2 or more, they share in a 2/3. If only one daughter, she gets half. In what your parents, in what you leave for your parents, if there are children, the parents each get 1/6 share. If no children, the mother gets 1/3. If there are brothers and sisters, the mother gets 1/6. Verse number 12 says, in what your wives leave for you after death, the husbands, they get half if there are no children. They get 1/4 if there are children. In what you leave for your wives, the wives get 1/4 if there are no children, 1/8 if there are children. Don't get confused, difficult to remember. Go home, open the Quran, don't know Arabic, read the translation, Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 11 and 12. Generally I agree, in majority of the cases, the female inherit half of that of the male counterpart. But there are cases in which female and male inherit exactly the same. As I mentioned, if the person who has died has children, mother and father both get 1/6. Or if the person who has died has got no children but leaves a brother and sister, both get 1/6. There are cases in which sometimes the female inherit double. If a female dies and leaves behind no children but has a husband and mother and father, the husband gets half, mother gets 1/3, the father gets 1/6. So mother gets double than the father, but there are rare cases. I do agree, as a normal general policy, the female inherit half of that of the male counterpart. If it's daughter and son, son inherit double than that of the daughter. Husband and wife, husband inherit double than that of the wife. I agree with it. What is the logical reason? The reason, as I mentioned earlier, the financial burden in Islam is put on the shoulders of the men. As far as the women are concerned, before she's married, it is the duty of the father and the brother, and after she's married, it's the duty of the husband and the son to look after her lodging, boarding, clothing, and all financial aspects. She need not work for a living. She's financially secured. Based on this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the shares. And let me give you an example. Suppose there's a person who dies and leaves behind 150,000 dirham. And he has one son and one daughter. After giving the shares of the wives and the other relatives, if 150,000 dirham are remaining from his inheritance, and he has one son and one daughter, the son will inherit 100,000 dirham, and the daughter will inherit 50,000 dirham. Now I'm asking you a question. Would you prefer being a son who inherits 100,000 dirham, and maybe 80 to 90% of that wealth you may have to spend on your family because you are the bread earner? Or would you prefer inheriting 50,000 dirham and keeping everything for yourself, not even spending a single dirham on anyone else? So logically but naturally, you prefer inheriting 50,000 dirham and not spending a single dirham on anyone else, rather than inheriting 100,000 dirham and spending 80%, 90%, 100% of it on looking after the other members of the family. That's the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. If He would have given both of them equal share, then I would have to give a talk on men's rights in Islam. Then the men would object. What kind of religion is this? We have to look after the family, and when we inherit equal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees to it that is just with everyone. Allah, as Allah says in Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never unjust in the least degree. The 17th most common question asked by the non-Muslim regarding Islam is that why do Muslims believe in life after death? How can you prove logically about the hereafter, about life after death? And many a times there are non-Muslims who pose this question to me. Brother Zakir, you're a medical doctor. You have given a lecture on Quran modern science. You are so scientific. But how do you believe in this blind belief, life after death? Science hasn't proved it. So they pose the question that if Islam is a logical religion, how do you justify life after death? I tell them that life after death is not just a blind belief, it's a logical belief. And I've given the talk on Quran modern science, and I've proven that there are more than 6,000 verses of the Quran, out of which more than 1,000 verses of the Quran, they speak about science. But today, science hasn't advanced so much to prove everything of the Quran. So if we analyze, say approximately 80% what the Quran speaks, which is related with science, has been proved to be 100% correct. 20%, it is ambiguous. Neither right, neither wrong. We don't know. So when 80% of the Quran is proved to be 100% perfect according to scientific facts, and 20% is neither wrong, neither right, not even 0.1% of the 20% has been proved wrong. My logic says when 80% is 100% correct and 20% is ambiguous, my logic says that inshallah, even the 20% would be correct. So it is a logical belief. It is not a blind belief. This is one way of proving life after death. The other strategy I use to prove about life after death is by asking a common question. That is robbing good or bad? And I'd like to ask you that question here from the audience. Is robbing good or bad? Good or bad? Bad. Who says robbing is good? Raise your hand. No one, mashallah. Mashallah. Large audience, maybe more than 10,000. Not a single person says robbing is bad. Now I am trying to impersonate. For example, I am a logical person. I am a scientific person. I am behaving like a non-Muslim, like an atheist. But I claim myself to be a logical person and a scientific person, and I say that robbing is good. Believe me, I am a logical person, I am a scientific person. I say robbing is good, and I like robbing. And I am giving you a chance, this large audience of more than 10,000 people, 15,000 people. I am giving you a chance to prove to me robbing is bad, and I will stop robbing. I've told you, I am a logical person, I am a scientific person. Give me one logical reason why robbing is bad for me, and I will stop robbing. I will tell you why it is good for me. When I rob a person, I can go and eat biryani. I can go to a 5-star hotel. Easy money. Now you tell me why robbing is bad. Don't give me 10, 20 reasons. Give me only one logical, scientific reason why robbing is bad, and I will stop robbing. Can anyone give me? Yes, brother. If you rob someone, can you speak a bit louder? MashaAllah. Very good. Brother is saying, if I take something from someone, I am taking away something from him. I agree. It is a loss for that person, but benefit for me. I agree with you. What I told you, prove to me why it is bad for me. It is bad for the person who I have robbed. What I told you, prove to me why it is bad for me. I am logical, I am scientific. I agree it is bad for the person who I have robbed. Tell me why it is bad for me, I will stop robbing. Yes, brother, loudly. Someone will rob me, will I like it? Very good. Brother, I am a big mafia. I have got 100 bodyguards, all of them are behind the stage. I am a big robber, I am not a small robber. For a small robber it is bad. Someone may rob you. I am a big mafia. I have got 100 bodyguards all behind, all with AK-47. I am logical, I am scientific. I am a big robber. For small robbers, it is not good. Somebody may rob you. So, why it is bad for me?